Welcome back. You're watching the election transmission on PIDE. Well, I'm your host, Omar Khalid, but this is my second hour here. And of course, we are discussing the whole concept of elections that are going to be held tomorrow. What are the do's, what are the don'ts? We discuss this in detail. What needs to be done? What is the eligibility of the voters, and how important was the training that was given to the different staff, polling staff that is going to be present tomorrow. 1.49 million, ladies and gentlemen, polling staff that has been trained in 27,000 different sessions under the Election Commission of Pakistan, and I think that's monumental. A lot of other important details also we discussed in the first hour, including the EMS and the different aspects of it, how there's a four-tier security as far as this very important system is concerned compared to RTS. So of course the percentage of security is much more this time, and there are different other alternatives in case there's any issue with the EMS as well. We've been joined by three guests. One guest remains with us for this hour as well, but the two other guests who've joined with us, let me introduce them to you one by one. We'll begin with our recurring guest who was here in the first hour as well, but I think she is primordial for this transmission because her organization is the one that has been handling different aspects of the Election Commission of Pakistan. We have the spokesperson of the Election Commission of Pakistan, Nighat Siddique, with us. Thank you very much, ma'am, to have stayed on. I understand you're you're working 24/7 more or less since the last couple of weeks, and the next few days are going to be even crucial.
Yes.
Our next guest, ladies and gentlemen, is Dr. Nasir Iqbal. He's the head of a micro policy lab at PIDE, and of course, PIDE is known for its papers and its thorough research as far as economy is concerned. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us. Our third guest, ladies and gentlemen, is Dr. Abid Abbasi. He's a political analyst and joins our show after quite some time. Dr. Saab, we're going to ask you why after the show. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us as well. We'll begin again the conversation with our lady in question, Nighat Siddique, as we always do. Nighat Siddique, we were talking of the Elections Act 2017 before the show began. How has this act, which has introduced comprehensive regulations, enhanced the financial and administrative autonomy of the Pakistan Election Commission, impacted the conduct and the management of elections in Pakistan? How is it going to impact tomorrow's election as well?
See, the new things that have been added to the Elections Act has given a lot of autonomy to the Election Commission itself and the powers. Especially like if I give an example of Section 9 of the Elections Act, which gives power to the Election Commission to call a result null and void if there's less than 10% of women voters turnout, is a big step towards inclusive elections and inclusive democracy. Then special measures are to be taken by Election Commission for enrollment of the vulnerable group, that is women, persons with disabilities, transgender and minorities on the electoral roll, and taking special measures not only by the Election Commission but by NADRA has also been made mandatory. Then we have the trainings, which are again made compulsory through this act. I think the act has done us a lot of good. Like through this act, we now only have either a temporary address where the vote will be registered or a permanent address. There's no third address which was there previously. So things are more clear, things are more done in a more comprehensive way. There's a lot of planning already mentioned in the Elections Act, like Section 12 of the Elections Act asks Election Commission to do trainings. Then we have an elections plan by law that we are supposed to do and prepare reports after every election, that is post-election review for the parliament. We have to have annual reports for the parliament. We have very clearly mentioned all the illegal acts and the penalties, the irregularities and the penalties. We have monitoring according to the law. Now we have a lot of power given to us through this law. I think it's very comprehensive. Before this it was separate 8 to 9 different laws, but now they've all been brought into one act, that's Elections Act 2017.
All right, that's very interesting. We're going to come back to you. Our guest in question, our economist, Dr. Nasir Iqbal. I was just reading through the knowledge brief of PIDE that talked about manifestos without substance, and I found it very interesting. I talked to one of your colleagues a couple of weeks back on this very issue as well. Manifestos are a very important part of any political party. But I was talking in the first hour, and I was talking to the head of FAFN, who was saying that a lot of times it happens that the manifestos, the promises that are made in manifestos are there, but how will you do it is a huge question mark that is never addressed properly in the manifestos. When it comes to the economy of Pakistan, that is extremely pertinent to handle by any political party, or whichever political party takes center stage after these elections. What should be the dynamic politically to handle Pakistan's economy in a way through manifestos and afterwards through decision making, in your point of view? Because I think you've addressed it through various fora.
Yeah, thank you for raising very important question about basically this question about the economy is the far important in all aspects, especially after this election. So the PIDE has done a lot of work on this, what kind of reforms are needed and what step essentially the next government should take to restore the economic path of the country. And there are a number of ways where need a lot of attention by the government. Let me briefly give you the example of the few important economic pillars. One is the economic growth. Currently, we have almost negative economic growth, lowest in the history. We have the highest inflation, that is around more than 40%. It is again historically like an outlier in terms of inflation. The third important component that we feel is the unemployment. Aggressively over the last couple of years, the unemployment rate has increased from 6% to more than 8%. So these are the core challenges that any government would face. So what are the key priorities when the next government definitely will join the office and take economic decision? The first and foremost decision is to negotiate with the IMF about the expansion or the new program where they can have some leverage in terms of the foreign exchange.
And also
reserve.
complete the current program.
Yeah, of course, definitely they have to complete the current program as well as to negotiate of the new program without any further delay, without any political gambling. Because once the government take over, they start making a political gambles in terms of renegotiating or negotiating with the international financial institution. That would be the first step. Once they reach some sort of agreement, it will create a sense of stability in the economy and give a positive signal to other investors as well as the international financial institutions. So this is the first task. Then the next two tasks definitely they have to focus on. One is the inflation, how to curtail and give some relief to the commons, and also create jobs for the unemployment people. So these are the steps that they have. As a long run, when we thought about what would be the shape of 2024 after this election, we called that the coming government should call this year as a reform year, maybe this entire tenure as a reform tenure. The PIDE debate on all these manifestos, as you mentioned in your intro, and others reform agenda was just to make sure that how these political parties conceived economic situation, what layout they form in terms of these manifestos. You know, these manifestos is some sort of reflection of their populist narrative. You know, if you look into the manifesto of the different parties, they, as you said, they never talk about how to achieve all those things. They are claiming that they will give free electricity, they will give a job, they will do this, but there is no action plan. PIDE is all about talking about the actions. What kind of
that is the most important.
What kind of reforms are needed? Like a couple of weeks ago, we launched a comprehensive reform package for the new government, and it would be the responsibility of new government to evaluate that reform package, to have a debate on that. We are happy to have a debate on that action plan, and we as a think tank of the government can assist further to reform that, further introduce and refine that plan, and also come up with the action oriented strategies that would really help government to prioritize their action, to introduce reforms, and to gain the confidence of the investors. So these are the key things that we really have to focus in the next years. So that as a PIDE, we believe that if there is no reform, then eventually we will be struggle with the same situation. We will be struggling with the debt crisis. The debt, even the debt servicing is much higher as compared to your revenues. We always struggling with the import-export gap. We don't have a foreign reserve to meet those. Even whenever the fiscal year starts, right from the first day, we run a fiscal deficit. This means we don't even have enough like revenues to finance the debt servicing, the defense payment, and the other current needs. So, from the very beginning of the fiscal year, we always in a crisis. So
all right. So we need to, the government that comes into power after these elections needs to cater to that on an urgent basis and needs to, as you said, make this term of their being present in the government as a reform term. This should be the term where they make the necessary changes so that we can move forward in a more balanced and as in a position from a position of strength. Dr. Abid Abbasi, you've seen the political parties rallying, you saw their promises, and you saw the different incidents that happened as well, and the political campaigning that has now ended. As a political analyst, if I were to ask you, what has been the highlight as far as the rallying is concerned and the manifestos is concerned, what would your 2 cents be?
Thank you very much, Omar. After a long time, as you said in
Yes.
your intro. First of all, we should be, it's a sigh of relief for the nation. It is a great movement indeed for the nation that finally elections are going to be held. The much needed, the much talked elections, because we all know that there were so many conspiracy theories were in the air, or many, suspicions and doubts were there. So many people were talking in the capital that elections won't be held in the given time. That finally we are, thanks to the institutions of the country, the Supreme Court of the country, and particularly Election Commission has done a tremendous job. For the first time we have seen that Election Commission is well empowered and is seen on the ground doing efforts. So the due appreciation to them. And as you have said, that what is the political rallies and the manifestos and the political campaigns. First, at the initial stage after the announcement of elections, we haven't seen that much involvement, that much campaigning of the political parties, particularly the big political, with the exception of Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, the head of Pakistan People's Party, who was very much in the ground, and I have seen some reports that he addressed more than 72 public rallies across the country. On contrary, the Mian Nawaz Sharif, who is the chief of Pakistan Muslim League, known, and he is, a lot of people are analyzing that his party would be in a better position to come into power. Let's see the results of what the electorate, what the voters are doing, what they are going to decide, either party A, B, or C. But a lot of people are talking about that, analyzing that his position. But we haven't seen a single political rally of his party in the province of Sindh. We have seen a very few political rallies in Punjab, and perhaps only one in Balochistan, and perhaps 2 or 3 in KP. So their campaign was not as much aggressive, as much seen on the political scenario. Similarly, we have seen that another political party which was in power, rather that was maneuvered to bring into power in previous elections, and we should not hesitate to say that the situation which Dr. Saab has evaluated in a very critical manner, that was actually cause of that political parties wrong, and the cliches and the playing to the galleries and mere slogans, and without having any sort of concrete solution of the problem. They were promised with the nation very tall claims but the very short actions. So finally the economic growth was considerably better in 2018, and the dollar's price as compared to rupee was the rupee was very much stable as compared to dollar. The petroleum prices were better in control. The common masses were leading comparatively a better life. I won't say that because Pakistan is a difficult country to govern. It is not easy to govern, and unfortunately we are even after 75 years of its independence, we are still feeling suspicions and doubts about the constitutional requirement of the elections, because constitution is a very sacred document for a country. It is actually the binding rules of game for the people and for the government, for the state to run. But unfortunately in Pakistan, the institution of democracy always remain very fragile. It has not been given that much, that much smooth functioning in the country. So still the people of Pakistan, the electorate, they are not as much politically awakened to take the right decision. But if we allow this process of democracy continue, I hope what Dr. Sahab has said, and my sort of observations are also there. Every thinking being is talking about the manifestos and the ground realities and the connections between actions and the sort of promise made by the political parties. But if this process remains continuous smoothly in this country, the people who are coming into power, they are contesting elections or leading the political parties, they would become visionary, they would become in position to solve the problem of the people. On the other hand, the people of Pakistan would also be able to vote for the right people. But first of all, I would request the people of Pakistan, this is a very crucial phase in our history, this is very important juncture of our history. We all should go for the vote, and it should be a good turnout, because this is the only way we can participate in the process of governance.
I totally agree with you on that, Dr. Abid, although you were not looking at me, you were during that conversation. But nevertheless, the point was received.
I have tried to actually see in the camera. that was not on.
It's all right. It's fine, Dr. Abid. Ma'am Nighat, we are talking a lot of the polls. Tomorrow is the polling day. So a lot of, questions. I have a whole list of questions, but of course I'll ask them one by one. But what is the percentage of voters as far as these elections are concerned? And what is the gap between the male and female voters? Has that changed between 2018 and 2024? Or is there still a significant gap that remains?
The voters this time, when we announced the election schedule, and the voter list was frozen then, it is for now 128.5 million. And that has 69.2 million male and around a little more than 59.3 million female. The gap between men and women voters on electoral roll in 2018 was around 11.8%.
All right.
Which after Election Commission's rigorous campaign of registering women by sending mobile vans to their doorstep, by directing NADRA to make their NIC's registration free of cost as first-time registrants, by making it a one-window operation, by just bringing one of the family members who's already registered and have the thumb impression and verify, instead of sending the form back for a 17th grade gazetted officer to sign. So all these steps helped in bringing more and more women on the electoral roll, and the gap has slided down to 7.7%, which is a big achievement, I would say. If we look at the details of this electoral roll, you will be surprised to see, it's our ECP's analysis, that we have 18 to 25 years of voters, ages 18 to 25, 22% in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, 21% in Balochistan, 19% in Islamabad, 18% in Punjab, and again 19% in Sindh. These are the voters who are going to be the first time voters. We are very much banking on them for a voter turnout, and we believe that it's going to be a huge voter turnout this time.
Inshallah.
We've been reaching out to them through different universities, colleges, schools, holding debates and declamations with them. We've been holding mock polls with them and with rural women in order to avoid invalid votes and to generate a lot of interest in, in them, in the youth becoming our ambassadors, taking the word around, letting other people in the area, in the network, understand why it's important to come out and vote on the election day, on poll day, and then mobilize and motivate their women folk to come out and vote. We tried this as a pilot in our ex-FATA elections, NMDs, and it worked. We had a huge women voter turnout there, and we're expecting the same tomorrow.
Inshallah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Last, before we move to my other guest, what is the how has the volume of polling stations changed between 2018 and 2024? A lot of people are asking, if the voter turnout is more, if the number of youth who are going to be first-time voters is increased. So has the has the government or the Election Commission made the necessary changes?
Yes, we have. From 2018 to 2024, I think, even if we talk about polling stations, we have more than around 5,000 more polling stations than we had in 2018. Like in 2018, we had 85,090 polling stations. Now we have 90,675 polling stations. In 2018, we had around, if you talk about the polling booths, or if we talk about male and female polling stations, we had 23,000 polling stations in 2018 for male. We now have 25,000. And for females, in 2018, there were 21,000, and now they have 23,844.
Okay.
So the volume has increased, the numbers have increased, and then we have combined polling stations where we have female polling booth and male polling booths, separate entrances for female voters, so that this parda thing that we have in our culture, respecting that culture, we have tried to arrange separate entrances, we have tried to arrange separate polling stations for females, provided female polling staff, female presiding officer, and we're trying everything to encourage more and more women and the vulnerable groups to come out, youth to come out as first-time voters. We've been holding, disseminating IC material, that is information material, voter information material, giving out the processes of the poll day, how they will come and how they'll cast the vote, which is very important. We've done that in Braille, we've done it in the posters in Braille, and 400 posters will be pasted outside 400 polling stations where we know for sure through our DCs that there are more visually impaired voters expected to come there. So we have Braille posters, we have 3D pictorial posters, we have pictorial posters for people who cannot read. They could see the picture and the process of step 1, 2, and 3, and then follow that process for casting the vote. We're trying our best to bring out more and more people, and then trying that invalid votes number should be decreased.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting. Any voting process that happens, Dr. Saab, Dr. Nasir Iqbal, leads to a government that is formed and an opposition, and most of the times the government makes certain changes. Sometimes what we've seen in the recent past, and I'm also going to ask this question to Dr. Abid Abbasi, that whenever a new government comes, it always strives to change everything, change the policies, change the basic structure of the decisions taken during the previous government, and whether it be for the good or the bad, and sometimes economy suffers the most because of these changes. We have seen how the IMF has been dealt with, and because of that, where we are now, because of the whole situation. When you talk of economic growth as your primordial challenge, what kind of reforms are you looking at? I was very, relieved, I should say the least, of the way Shamshanat Akhtar Sahiba dealt with her ministry during the caretaker government, and how the reforms in the FBR have begun. I think that was extremely important to happen. What other reforms do you feel should be the order of the day once the new government comes into power?
I think that's a very important question about the reforms, and we believe that the reform should start from the market reform. So there are so many other areas where need reform, like we required a reform in bureaucracy, we required a reform in democratic system, we required a reforms in terms of judiciary, we required a reform in all other sectors of the economy, but I think the starting point for the upcoming government is to initiate reforms from the market. Let the market to develop. That would be the slogan, as PIDE advocated about, and how we can define the market and what would be the market development is. You know, there is a cartel, there is a monopoly in the market system, there is a very difficult NOC culture of the country. You need a lot of permission, you need a lot of NOCs from the different institutions.
There needs to be a facilitation of the whole process.
Even to make a very small investment. The first and the foremost reform would be to abolish this culture of NOCs, the culture of permissions and the culture of documentation. Make it very simple. If we can learn from the other countries, they make a process very simple. You can complete your process while sitting in your home. You just need to fulfill the form and submit the fee. Everything would be there, and there is a cross examination through the use of technology. Even do not require to visit actually the offices where there is a major hurdle, major rent seeking, major bribery and so many other elements in terms of delaying taxes. So all these should be reformed. So we need to talk about the market reform at the very top priority. Reforms in agriculture market, reforms in real estate market, reforms in all other kind of, even in the energy sector. So we are struggling with this circular debt over the last 30 to 40 years, but we never allow these markets to develop. When there is a competition, the other people definitely start making investment, then they feel comfortable that we have the free choice, we can compete and we can win. But if you control the system, it would be very difficult to convince the investor to come and make investment. So these could be the starting point for the new government, apart from so many other reforms that we suggested. Just I have like a couple of observations related to ECP, maybe if you can give me like 1 minute. We did survey like as PIDE done so far, and ask about this process. What we feel around, as Madam Sahiba said, around the youth is the key. More than 87% youth intended to vote in the coming election. That would be the positive part of the thing. The concerning part, that the trust deficit between the state institution and the general public. What we suggested in our knowledge brief and other portfolio, that ECP must come up with some sort of aggressive communication strategy that should minimize the deficit between the ECP. As she said, that they took a lot of initiative to ensure the transparency and to make sure that the people, those voted to that specific party, must be counted there. So that message is missing across the Pakistan. That creates some sort of sense that there is a manipulation behind the scene. And I would definitely like request to ECP that maybe it's the time over, but in the future they must have a clear communication strategy to reduce that deficit,
trust deficit
between the ECP and the general public.
I think that is a very important point. Trust deficit, Dr. Abid Abbasi, is also seen in the political circles, and you've seen that, you've witnessed that first, and as have all of us. What should be the main inclination of any political party, whichever political party comes to power now? This period is going to be very, very important for Pakistan. The onus of responsibility on whichever party comes into power will be paramount. What should be the parameters of that responsibility?
I think political parties have learned a lot of lessons, or I pray to God that my perception should be real, that they should play very maturely, or this is the phenomena of democratic dispensation across the world, that one party comes into power, or the alliance of some parties comes into power, and rest of the people are sitting in the opposition. Both opposition and the government have equally responsible for the deliverance through this system of democracy. So opposition is not, there is merely an institution of opposition in the office of the opposition and opposition leader. That is considered the government in waiting, and their responsibility is equally important as the government has. So definitely the government that would be in power after the tomorrow's elections, that has, you know, as you said, onus of responsibility, and the grave situation, the grave economic situation we are facing. The political situation is not very much smooth in the country. We have tensions on our borders. We have, you know, tensions that Dr. Sahib has said about there's so many, you know, sort of things to do very smartly, very efficiently, very you know, with vision as compared, you know, as regard to IMF and other donor agencies of the world. So this is the perhaps the most difficult, most, you know, sort of crucial situation of our country. So the political parties should behave as we have seen in the 18 months government previously, that the almost all the political parties of then opposition, they joined hands together and they played, despite the fact that how much they could succeed to get a country out of that turmoil, out of that financial turmoil, but they behaved. We have seen that the foreign minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, he was given free hand and he played tremendously good. Similarly, the finance minister previously, Miftah Ismail, and then Ishaq Dar, they strived for you know, betterment of the country, because modern day economy is based on perceptions. If the perception, we have lost perceptions, then we cannot do you know, so control the deterioration of the economy. So the political leaders should know that they are mature enough. We have you know, had very mature leaders like Nawaz Sharif. He is in politics for more than 40 years. Similarly, Asif Zardari, he remained the president of Pakistan. He is a very mature politician, and he is considered the guru of negotiation and, you know, taking all the people together. Similarly, Maulana Fazlur Rahman is a very seasoned, very senior politician, and we have many other you know, senior politicians in the country. And this is the time that they should not play politics for the sake of politics. They should play politics. They should behave maturely. If some political party you know, does not get any sort of share in the government, they should behave maturely as the elder of the nation, because this is a very emergency like situation prevailing in this country. Usually, because you and me are belonging to comparatively a better class, but the people of Pakistan, more than 70%, 80% people of Pakistan, they are facing a very grave situation. Their bread and butter, their sustainability of life is too difficult, and this is the test of the political leadership of Pakistan for their maturity, for their responsibility. And I think, as Dr. Sabah said, I mean, I'm happy to see that the expert opinion here, the PIDE is, as the government think tank, doing well. There are so many other institutions in the country. There are so many people in this country who have big brains, who can change, who can support the government.
Use the right minds for the right purposes.
Yes, this is what I'm trying to say across the world. We have seen many professors in the cabinet of the government of you know, American presidents. We see many technocrats in everywhere in the world, and the visionary leadership is actually taking all those brains into pool or getting benefits out of them. So everybody in this country, there should be very rigorous reforms against the elitist culture of this country, I must say, and to give the relief, because people of Pakistan has always been giving sacrifices to getting Pakistan out of country, but this 1%, 2%, 3% elite should also be taken into consideration. Talk to them, tell them that this is the grave situation.
And make everybody enter the tax net. I think that is also very important.
This is what I'm trying to say. The tax ratio should be reformed. That should be revolutionary.
Major reform.
More to the privileged classes and lesser to the
Agreed. Last round of questions, beginning with you, Ma'am Nighat. You know, last question we have one short answers, but it has two facets. Article 218 of the Constitution of Pakistan, 1973. How has the Election Commission ensured the conduct of elections in a fair, just and honest manner over the years, looking at the previous elections and now? What challenges have you faced, and how did you address them if you compare previous elections to this election?
See, we need to understand this election is not only one-day activity. It's spread over a lot of preparation and a big number of days where we start preparing. And we've had a lot of challenges, but 2183, the way it says we have to conduct election free, fair and transparent. Election Commission has been very, very committed to this constitutional mandate. They've done everything under the sky to keep this election fair, free and transparent. The transparency is such that in every election you see, it's the first time that that the observers have been invited to come and see our election. ECP is giving accreditation to anyone and everyone as a domestic observer, as an international observer, as international media, as national media, to come and see the election, to see all the processes of election, much before the election, on the election day and after the election. Now this shows how transparent we are, that we are not holding anything back, we are not, we're sharing information. As far as challenges are concerned, we've been preparing for this election for a long time now. As you see, in 2023 we saw a change in a lot of amendments coming in while we were about to start with our elections. Then we had this population census when we did our boundary delimitation exercise, which is a very rigorous exercise. We completed it and we had this census, population census. A new one came in and we had to do that boundary delimitation again, very close to this election. But our people were very, very committed. So a lot of hard work went in, day in and night out. Our officers were working. The commission was looking at all the, you know, the petitions that were coming in, and they came in a big number.
I know.
So a lot of work went in resolving them. A lot of work went in finalizing that. Then, as you mentioned before this this program, of the electoral roll and our teams reaching out for a door-to-door verification, they reached, they came to your place also.
Yes, they did.
They came to my place also while I wasn't home. That means that they went everywhere. So that's again another huge exercise in itself, where you go for a door-to-door verification, you finalize the electoral roll, and that was done. Then moving on from there to the preparations for the election material and its procurement. The government didn't give us much funds. We were held back because of paucity of funds. Then when we got that, we started again. And to tell you honestly, I've seen, this is my third election, and how I see a big shift and a change in the way the elections are conducted now, where the election commissioner, Sikandar Sultan Raja Saab, is sitting every day with all the officers at 9 in the morning, with all the provincial election commissioners online, walking through every process of the election himself, monitoring everything. We have speechless. We don't have words to express.
A lot of
that.
responsibility on your
And
shoulders.
a lot of, yes, responsibility, a lot of pressure, but a lot of hard work has gone in.
I totally see the hard
And the
work.
preparations are such that I think a few days before the election, everything was ready.
Okay, so we'll see that tomorrow in actual, application. Coming to you, Dr. Nasir Iqbal, economic transparency. I want a very short answer. We're a bit short of time. Economic transparency. How important should be that as a first step for any government that comes into power post the elections, and will PIDE be helping the upcoming government as far as the reforms are concerned and how to deal with them?
Yeah, definitely. One first liner is that ECP done a lot of work, and we must admire the effort that they have done. And the one important component that is missing, and they should work on the financial autonomy of the ECP, because they always struggle with the financials, and the delays is primarily linked with the funding from the government, and they have to rely on that, and that undermines the entire effort of the ECP. So, coming back to the economic transparency, that is the key. That as I earlier said, the trust and the perception are the two important pillars. If you have to allow or to convince the investor to come and invest in Pakistan, for that you have to create an environment where there is no hurdle, where there is no administrative burden, where there is no underlying issues that create some sort of like delaying tactics.
True.
These are the key things, and if we really reform those things, it will increase our productivity, it will enhance the confidence, not only the international investor but also the domestic investor. They are willing to invest, but there is no confidence.
All right.
We have to ensure that confidence.
Confidence is very important. Final question to you, Dr. Abid Abbasi. A survey that has recently been held says 75% of people are going to accept the results of tomorrow's polls. 17% are not sure. 7% say they will not accept. Do you feel this is a step in the right direction?
It's a very great, sort of number that people have seen the efforts of the caretaker governments and the system and the election commission and the judiciary. 75% people's trust is a big number, I guess. God forbid nothing would happen tomorrow. There are so many sort of questions, so many eyebrows, so many sort of fingers being raised on the process of elections, because unfortunately, as I said earlier, that in 75 years we have not a smooth functioning democratic system in the country. If we go back and see the standard and the status of Election Commission of Pakistan in 60s or in 70s or in 50s, and if we compare that with today's Election Commission and today's Election Commission initiatives, that is much better. Similarly, the process, the overall process, that has also improved a lot, because we are inviting now international observers to come and see elections in Pakistan. That is actually confidence, our confidence in our system. Or the people have talked about that some sort of, for instance, some political parties, they were given some sort of extra leverage, something more than level playing field. But despite all those, sort of questions, the election process, if is acceptable for more than 70% people of this country, and the international observer, it is a big achievement. It would be a big achievement.
Thank you very much to all three of you. One small word as an answer. From what time will we start having the results tomorrow?
They will start immediately after the close of poll, which is 5 p.m. And as and how the results are received at the RO's office from the presiding officer, immediately they'll be announced.
So around 6 p.m. we should expect the first results pouring in.
Maybe much before that, but yes, well.
Okay, around 6 we'll start having the results.
Yes.
But I think media is advised to,
of course,
telecast
we will be, of course, relying on the ECP for that. Thank you very much, Nighat Siddique, ECP spokesperson. Thank you very much, Dr. Nasir Iqbal, head of Micro Policy Lab at PIDE. And thank you very much, Dr. Abid Abbasi. I hope to see more of you in the coming days. Ladies and gentlemen, the polls are tomorrow. We are all excited. I myself will be going to vote, as well as my guests and all Pakistan, as well, as far as the latest surveys are concerned. We wish you all the very best, and may the best party win. Vote for your candidates, people you like, but go and vote. Allah Hafiz.